Hey, it's John Kidd, defensive coordinator at Maroa-Forsyth High School. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of our job descriptions on defense and a little bit about our alignment and how we would set up in a 3-3 stack or a 4-2-5 or a 4-3, whichever you prefer to call it. So I would tell my kids basically what their job is. Specifically, each kid has a job, and if they do their job, we're going to have a pretty good group of defenders. So my corners, they need to know the coverages. Obviously, we play a cover 2, cover 3 most of the time, a little bit of man. They have to be willing to communicate, be able to lock a single receiver. Very rarely do we have just one kid that locks the whole time and all that good stuff. So take pride in never getting beat deep, and they have to be smart and confident because sometimes they are on an island by their own, on their own. So. And then we'll go to our drop. Our drop is kind of our hybrid. He should be able to play a little bit of outside linebacker and safety. He needs to know all the coverages, be able to communicate. There's a chance he could blitz, but he should be able to play the flats in a deep half and really come up and run support if we're playing a run-heavy team. Our free safety can be a little more athletic, not so much in the box. Has to know everything, be able to communicate, be a leader, know everybody's job. He needs to be able to read, run, pass. He kind of needs to be a jack of all trades. Our Trojan is going to be our outside linebacker, and he is probably one of the most important parts of our defense. He's the one that has to set the edge, has to be able to play in the box, get to hook curl, get the flat. If teams motion a lot, he might have to drop back and play safety. So ideally, our Trojan is like our most versatile player, similar to our drop. Our Trojan and drop could almost switch jobs at times. Ideally, that would be the case. If I play a bigger Trojan, then they're obviously a lot more limited. I'd be more of a 4-3 team instead of a 4-2-5 team. So my Mike and my Will, if I'm in a 4, they can be pretty similar. The only adjustments I would really make against passes would be if the Will is going to lock a back out, he probably needs to be a little more athletic than the Mike. The Mike would always be protected with the Trojan and could be a little bigger inside out. But they are, my Mike is a run first linebacker. He needs to read first, attack the line of scrimmage. We'll have to defend hook curl. Going to be our bigger, stronger kid. Your Will in our defense, if we're playing a 4, will have to be just as good against the pass as a run, possibly able to lock running backs out. Good speed, aggressive, very smart, defend the hook curl. Our weak side end has to probably be the smartest of our defensive ends, only because they're not going to be protected with the Trojan most of the time. They've got to be able to pressure the quarterback, cave down on down blocks, take on counter tray, all the while understanding that they have to keep outside contained. They can't chase pullers and all that good stuff. My nose, hopefully he's forcing a double team, protecting our 2 linebackers. Has to get a little bit of penetration to disrupt pullers. Need a kid that has a great motor, never quit. We're not a big wrestling school, but ideally if you had a kid in there that wrestled and could fire off the ball and cause some trouble, or you could play a big kid that just doesn't get moved. Either way, whatever fits your team and size. But then our tackle, our 3 technique, he has to be able to control the B gap, can't get driven down. This is probably in our defense going to be our bigger kid because you're going to get power, counter. Well, if they can't move the 3, they're not going to be able to run that a lot versus us. Again, he's protecting linebackers, and he's a strong side run stopper. Our strong side end, if there's a tight end, he's got to be a stud. So if we're playing teams with like double tight or just a tight end that likes to down block and get outside and run power, that kid has to be a stud. So sometimes we'll put our best defensive end there because he's going to get down block a lot. He will be able to chase pullers because he's going to be protected by the Trojans. So my strong side end is the one that we allow him to make a little more plays. Doesn't have to be as cautious as our weak side because he's always going to be protected with the Trojan, assuming we switch our weak side and strong side ends when we can. And that's kind of like a job description of our defense. If I were to hand this out to the kids, that's kind of like what I expect from you right off the bat. So I might print this out and give it to our kids just so they can kind of see what their job is before we even go over it in a practice or a camp. I am a multiple defense. So I will play based on who we're playing. The principles and the kids are going to be taught the same. But this is how I would line up if we were playing a 3-3 stack. And this is versus an I team. We see a lot of spread, but this is just the simple I feel like everybody starts off with. So if we were playing an I team, my corner is going to man, except for anything quick underneath. We would man the single receiver. My tackle, nose, and tackle would line up head up, and then they would be told where they're going. So they always know that if we're in a 3, the tackle, the end or tackle, whatever you want to call them, we call them ends if they want to feel like they're more athletic. We call them tackles if we don't care. But and then our nose is going to line up on the center, tackle on the other tackle. So they always know where they're starting off in the 3, and then our linebackers are going to basically stack behind them before pre-snap, and then based on where our defensive linemen are told to go, our linebackers will adjust. So our weak side is going to be similar to our weak side end. He's primarily going to be responsible for outside contain a lot of the time, especially if the tackle, nose, and tackle are bigger kids that you want to run stop. This weak side linebacker needs to be more of like your defensive end, can play flat, man-to-man, maybe on a running back out. So this kid lines up about 3 to 4 yards off, and if we've got a right call, he's sitting about a yard, 2 yards outside. Our Mike can be a bigger kid, inside out kid. Kid maybe you like to blitz a lot, because in pass he's not going to be really responsible for a lot of passes, so I'm probably going to bring him a lot. Strong side needs to be pretty versatile, because he's going to be getting hook curl on trips, and he's going to be about 4.5, 5 yards off. A lot of teams like to run C gap, so your strong side backer needs to be a pretty darn good kid. Your Trojan, again, is one of your most important for us. He's going to set the strength. So since there's a tight end over here, we're going to call strong right. He's going to walk up and play about 2x2 with his inside foot up. And our corner over here is going to be 7 to 10 yards off, depending on how good the X is. Our free safety is going to play right over the tight end's outside shoulder, and they're going to be 10 to 12 yards deep. If we're playing a run team that gets in here and only throws the ball maybe once every 10 plays, we might have them about 8 yards up, and we might play a little more of like a robber man against the Y. Our drop, if Z is a stud, he's probably 10 to 12 yards off. If Z is not an issue, we're probably walking our drop up to 8 yards, and he's going to just go play in the box. So that's how we would set up and teach our kids. Really, you're teaching these 6. The only difference between a 4 and a 3 is that now they're over the tackle, nose, and tackle, instead of what you'll see here. So when we go to a 4, nothing changes for our drops, free safeties, corners, and our Trojan, except now we obviously know that our ends are always going to be C-gap, and our tackle and our nose now. So basically what I would have done here is our weak side on our 3 should be able to walk up and play this defensive end most of the time. So now I've just bumped my tackle down, and now these are my 3 original 3-down linemen. My weak side backer is now walked up, and now I've got my strong side, my Mike here. So now the only difference is the nose and the 3 know that they're lining up over the guard, and then everything's going to be based on that when I give a strong call, weak call, whatever we call. Linebackers here are now 4.5 to 5 yards off, similar to what we were on the last one. So this is basically how we would set up our base alignment on the 3-3 stack and on our 4-2-5 defense.